Hello there, everyone. It's Patricia Hayes here with today's Coffee Time Career Chat. This is the original version where we talk about all of those things that are affecting you in your personal and professional capacities while you're growing as a professional, working as a business person, as an entrepreneur, whatever those capacities. We have a bunch of things that come up during the course of our issues and our, professional lives. And so we like to talk about those things here because this is the context in which I will get questions or get asked to say, hey, can we go talk, go to coffee and have a chat because I got some things I need to work through. And so this is how Coffee Time Career Chat started. For those of you who are just joining in for the very first time, my name is Patricia Hayes. I am an executive advisor, career empowerment coach, and authentic networking strategist. And all of that means is I love being the brains behind the brains and helping to give support to professional people, particularly women who are looking to up level their careers, their businesses, their opportunities in ways that are authentic and purposeful, and help them to get there and to make sure that it's sustainable over time. Okay. So those are the things that I do. You can learn more about me if you check in on my LinkedIn or my website, any of those things. And I'm super excited because this week I started being able um, to engage on LinkedIn Live. So I'm so excited about that opportunity and continue to do it. So here's the thing about Coffee Time Career Chat. On Mondays, we go live, and that is the networking edition. And on Wednesdays, for now, Coffee Time Career Chat is pre-recorded, and I may consider going back to a live version, but I got to let the schedule settle out a little bit, right? So I'm just mainly trying to make sure I'm consistent with providing you with good solid content, and so that you can know where you can get it and when. So we have started this month with a new series, and I've entitled it Redefining Superwoman. It had been bugging me for some months now, and finally it just really struck me. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to call it Redefining Superwoman. And here's the reason why. Because when you are a professional woman and you're really, really good at what you do, and you're really, really good at keeping your household together and all of that, at least on the outside and the appearances of it, people start calling you Superwoman. Well, here's the thing. Superwoman, that tag can get worn out real fast because Superwomen get exhausted. We get burnt out, and it is not a pretty scene. So that's what I decided. You know what? I'm going to do a series on redefining Superwoman so that we, as those women who are super ambitious, goal oriented, but still want to live a life that's purposeful, that's supportive of our families, and that, hello, we get to have a life and get to have some fun too. That we have to recognize there are some things that we have to disown or boundaries we have to set in order to make sure that we have the space that we need in order to grow to our fullest potential. Okay. So that said, this week's topic on Redefining Superwomen series is that Superwoman is always super, that lovely fallacy. And, really talking about when you're being taken for granted. So here's the thing. Um, I remember years ago when I was doing my legislative work and the organization I was working for, it was the summertime. So it was right after a legislative session. And there were lots of cleanup things to do. So there's always stuff to do. But, it was not requiring 80-hour weeks anymore, right? We were done with the 60, 80-hour work weeks. It's the summer. And in my office, you could tell because at 5 p.m., it was quiet. People were gone if they weren't gone sooner, except for me. I was still there. And I was like, working away because I'm like, oh, I got to get this legislative summary out and ready for the summer and all of this. So, like I said, a lot of cleanup work that's normal that has to be done. It was not my first time having to do it, but me being, I won't say overly committed, but overly committed, just really driving myself to make sure everything was just right. And I want to put this out. And one day I went to go, check on someone to ask them a question, but it was after 5. And I was like, where is everyone? And that's when I realized I was the only one still in the office. And that just really hit me hard. And I'm like, I'm sitting here busting my butt, still staying late. And everybody else is like, it's summertime, I'm gone. Peace out. And I was furious, not so much at them, but at myself for realizing, you know what? You are trying to do too much and it's not appreciated. It doesn't require all this extra. So let's pull it back. And I did. And I learned how to shut that computer down at 5 p.m. and keep it moving. Now, is that something I normally do? No. I mean, I'm very much the keep going, get it all done type of person. But at that point in time, I realized that I was giving more than was necessary in order to get the job done, because all that extra time or whatever was not earning me any bonus points or any such thing. The thing I was trying to get worked on could get done. There was no urgency to it. There was a deadline, but it wasn't like it had to be done the next day. So I decided that I would utilize the full capacity of my deadline. That's what we're going to be talking about today, about being taken for granted in the spaces in which you work, in the spaces in which you operate. It doesn't matter whether it's a paid gig or it's a nonprofit, board commitment, all of those things. I've experienced this at all of those levels. And there are some things that we can learn. The first one being very important. Number one is we have got to learn to reset your boundaries, period. Because most of the time when we're on that brink of exhaustion and burnout, yes, there are some external factors that feed to it. But more often than not is we have allowed people to move past the boundaries that we either set or did not even set. I mean, those are the worst, right? You never even set boundaries. And that is why you're feeling taken advantage of, why you're feeling taken for granted. Because people are like, oh, well, it's okay. Just leave it for Patricia. She'll get it. Or, yeah, send it over to Patricia. She'll take care of it. All of that. Are they confident in your ability? And does that feed to our ego? Sure, it does. But at some point, that ego-driven appreciation becomes resentment because you're tired and you're burnt out and you're the only one in the office at 5 p.m. So that said, let's think about how you are contributing to the unreasonable expectations that clearly have been set. Okay. It's not that you have to, quote, lower your standards or any such thing. But when people feel free to email you at 8 p.m. during dinner time or at 10 p.m. when you're trying to unwind, there are boundary issues there. Okay. And so you have to honestly do the reflection work. I've done it multiple times and very seriously in the last 6 to 8 months myself. And you have to put those boundaries back up quick, fast, in a hurry if you want to be able to put a lid on this quickly. Okay. Another really important factor is just learning to say no. This is so repetitive and it seems so trite, but it's repeated so often because it is true. And there are so many of us that still fail to understand that no is a complete sentence. No, period. If you want to be generous, no, thank you. I mean, it really can be that simple. Just because you can do something, just because you have the ability to do something and to do it well, does not mean that You are the person that has to get it done. This is a lot of ego stuff. I'm not getting into mindset here. That's not my specialty. I save that to other folks, like my own personal coach. But the reality is that when we're people pleasers, or we're really, trying to say, oh, well, if we get this done, I'll quote, get some bonus points. But ultimately, it's you have to take care of. No one is going to take care of you like you can. You have to learn to say no. You have to learn to set the boundaries where you want them to be, not where other people are willing to let you set them. That is two different things, because other people are always going to push it way further than maybe you would be willing to allow. Okay? So, number one, reset your boundaries first and foremost, very quickly. All right? Number two, you have to remember, this is a big one too. You are not obligated to live up to the expectations that others have set for you. Let me repeat that. You are not obligated to live up to the expectations that other people have set for you. What do I mean by that? We have to take our own internal temperature about what it is we're willing to do and how far we're willing to do it. So we talked a little bit about boundaries. This is bleeding into that, because a part of that is allowing others to say, oh, well, Patricia is capable of going at 150%. So I'm going to ask her for 149. Meanwhile, other people are running at 50, 65% maybe. I remember having this exact same conversation and thought myself, where I had to realize that what took other people 8 hours to do, I could probably get accomplished in 2 or 3, and then I would just keep going. Meanwhile, those other folks were, the expectations were set low for them, so they kept them there. But my expectations externally were set much higher because they knew that I could operate in that. Well, where's the boundary? Where are the expectations needing to be reset in a way that doesn't burn you out, or that compensates you in an appropriate manner for it, right? So compensation is not always about money. Compensation can be about flexibility. Because if I can get the work done in 3 hours, why am I sitting here looking at this screen for 8? So if you want this done and I can get it done for you, then you know what? I'm going to take off half the day and go visit my kids, or I'm going to go do something for myself, right? There are things. Now, you have to get to a level to be able to ask for those things and to do it confidently, right? Flexibility might be, you know what? I can get this work done. I really would like to be able to pursue some additional professional development on the company's dime. Let's talk about how to make that happen. All right. So there are ways to be compensated for your high functioning abilities, if that's the thing that you do. If it's not about just being high functioning, it's just like you're pushing too much and you're letting people push you, go back and revisit number one, reset your boundaries, but also just remembering to call people out when they are setting expectations for you in the work that you do at levels that are not equal to, or that are out of proportion to, let me say that are disproportionately represented when it's work that you are performing or doing versus other people. So the goal is not to dumb down. That's not what I'm saying. It's like, well, they're only doing 80%. Why do I have to do 150? No. Let's talk about, hey, I'm capable of doing this. You know this, and that is of value to you. So how can we compensate or adjust? Because what you don't want is for me to keep going at 150% and I burn out or I leave. These can be some honest and sometimes some difficult conversations that need to be had, but that doesn't mean that they should not be had. All right? They absolutely need to be had. Because if you're going to take advantage of Superwoman's powers, you're going to have to compensate her for them accordingly. I love that. Superwoman has got to be compensated accordingly. So let's talk about what that Superwoman compensation is. Okay. All right. So thirdly, let's go on there. The third point is you know your own worth. See how these all kind of slide into each other? You have to know your own worth. Don't base your worth on the value of whether someone else thinks you are worth fixing. That was a lot, right? You don't determine your worth. Worth is different than values, right? But your personal worth is not determined on someone's external evaluation. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. Because if we continue to allow ourselves to be valued in that way and have that integrated, we will always be taken for granted. We will always be pushed to the limit by other people's expectations, by other people's, well, she can do it, why not? Right? And you will be burnt out and exhausted. And that feeling of being taken for granted will continue in building out that resentment that you feel. And take the joy out of the work that you're doing. It'll take the joy out of the colleagues that you work with. If you actually enjoy the work that you're doing and the people you work with, then you have to take steps to preserve it in a way that will allow you to perform at your best in an ongoing manner. Okay? And that means knowing your worth. Knowing that you don't have to work 20 extra hours per week in order to prove that you are better at the job or that you can get it done, but no, you don't have to do it. Plain and simple. Remember what I said? No is a complete sentence. You do not have to do that. You do not have to engage in that mentality and that behavior. This is where that conversation about self-care comes in. And self-care is more than a bubble bath, even though I profess to loving a good hot bubble bath as some therapy, for therapy myself. But it's not just that. It's about knowing your limits, knowing the limits that you allow others to push you to, and setting those boundaries so that you can be great, not just good, but great for another day. All right? Set the limits. I love that. Set the limits so you can be great for another day. Because that's the goal. It's not just to be good, okay. No. You want to be great. You want to be at your best. And being at your best doesn't happen when you're tired, you're exhausted, you're burnt out, and you're resentful about everything you're doing because you don't feel appreciated. All right? There we have it. That's Coffee Time Career Chat for today, Redefining Superwoman. Let's take a look at what it is we're doing to contribute to that being taken for granted and the actions that we can take in order to overcome it. Because guess what? We only have control over ourselves. We only can manage ourselves. We don't have any control over other people, but we can manage our response to them. And that is where we're going to leave it today. All right? It's been awesome. I look forward to catching up with you again next week. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. hit me up in the DMs, email me, inbox me. I'd love to chat. All right, take care, and I'll talk to you again later. Bye bye.